Trina Hill stands as a beacon in the tech industry, not just for her role as a senior vice president at a leading fintech firm, but as the founder of Tech Care, advocating for inclusivity for women of color. Her 2 decades of experience, marked by significant roles at companies like IBM and GE, underscore her profound impact on tech strategy and innovation. It is a rare opportunity to absorb the wisdom of a trailblazer who has not only navigated the complexities of the tech world, but has also been instrumental in reshaping it. Tune in to discover how Trina Hill's visionary approach can inspire change and foster growth in the tech sector. Thank you so much for being here on Tech as a New Black.
Thank you for having me.
So this is really beautiful. Just to kind of give a little bit of a backstory for people that are listening and tuning in. Trina was supposed to be a guest on Tech as a New Black for the last batch recording that we did. She actually had made it to the recording, but a mistake that was on my part and timing of things weren't able to have her as a guest. Ended up being very special because one of the questions that I want to make sure y'all stick around for was actually a new question that came up based on a conversation that we had. Actually, 2 of the questions were questions that were brought up based on the conversation that we had. Even though she wasn't able to come on the podcast, we still had the opportunity to talk, get more familiar with each other. And ultimately, I was like, man, these are some other conversations I believe we could have that will provide a lot of unique value to everyone that's here. So truly believing that it was ordained and aligned in that way for it to happen, and just her being very patient, having a lot of grace with us, and then just making time to be here. So we appreciate you so much for being here for us and our audience.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Look, thank you for the work that you do. I know that, we see this beautiful podcast, but we don't see the hard work. So I thank you for the vision, and I thank you for the discipline, and I thank you for the diligence, and I thank you for the excellence.
Man. Oh my goodness. Trying to get me in my feels. No, I appreciate that so much. So y'all could already see just the love pouring. So make sure y'all ready because there's a lot of education as well as really wisdom that y'all going to hear in this episode. And so now most people feel as if they're not qualified. But you are actually a first generation college, corporate, etc. So you had even more reasons to doubt yourself and deal with imposter syndrome, but you still made it here. What was life like for you, and what advice can you give someone who can relate to how you used to live, the different things you've had to overcome and really accomplish and be a first generation everything?
Yeah, look, it's a lot, right? So first and foremost, it is my faith that has sustained me. Right. So I grew up, I am a Christian. I do not hide that even in my corporate world. It is a part of my identity. And so to me, that's my foundation. My parents were blue collar workers. My mother was a janitor at the University of Georgia. I have 2 degrees from the University of Georgia. Wow. My father also was a blue collar worker. My parents could not afford for me to go to college. My mother didn't even buy me oodles and noodles, right? Because they didn't have money. They were working paycheck. We were living paycheck to paycheck, right? And so when you grow up without, there's some grit that comes with that, right? So watching my mom work 2 jobs, watching my dad work, watching my family work. It wasn't this quote unquote side hustle that we see. It was, this is how you're gonna make your rent. You had to have multiple things going on in order to just survive. Right. And so what that taught me was a couple of things. It definitely taught me perseverance and grit, but it also taught me that I don't want to work that hard, because what I also saw was no sleep, no vacation, stressed, depression, right? We weren't talking about those things. Auntie was irritated. Mama was angry. We didn't understand why they were angry, because they were stressed out. They never rested. And so for me, what was important was, number 1, what has God called me to do? And then number 2, me being clear about what I wanted and me persevering through all of the naysayers saying what I could not do, especially being a Black woman in technology, right? Because I came straight out of college. I had my undergraduate degree in MIS. At the time, there was a good number of, to be honest, Black students that were in my class.
Okay.
Right in 1999, when I graduated from UGA,
wow, like
it was a significant. It was noticeable. Let me say it that way.
Wow. And
right?
for like technology.
For technology in MIS, we were Management Information Systems. But as I walked into corporate America, I didn't see me.
Wow.
Right? I was oftentimes I'm still that way to this day, where I walk in and oftentimes they think I'm an admin. Man. Or they think I'm the help instead of the head, right?
Yeah.
Right? But navigating through all of I call it the firsts, was a blessing because it taught me perseverance, and it also taught me these lessons that I can pass on.
Yeah.
So my cousins, they didn't have to worry about how do I figure out how to get even financial aid from college, because I could tell them how to do it.
Yeah.
They were ready when they walked into corporate America. Here are the things you need to look for, because I don't care what they tell you. We're still dealing with people.
Yeah, that's real.
Right? And people come with their biases and their baggage and their own motivations. And so I've been fortunate enough to go through it so that as a first generation, I can at least share with others, here are the things you need to navigate through, and also confirm that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You can be the first and be okay.
Yeah.
Right? That's a part of your journey.
That's so important for people to see, just really seeing your life and hearing your story, because I didn't realize how important representation was, and really how unique and specific representation is. Like, you know, on a broad level, we hear representation, you know, most people hear it, and, you know, we can easily think of, you know, the low-hanging fruit of saying, oh yeah, representation of you being a Black person that's in tech. But I've realized on a more granular level, like, yo, representation gets really specific to where, you know, God has used my story to inspire a lot of Black women to get in tech, but I realized that whenever I interview Black women, it inspires significantly more Black women, because those Black women are like, yes, Cyrus, we see you, but we need to see a Black woman doing it, you know. And even recently I inspired a guy. I started to notice it's really unique. I'll interview someone who's Black, who's in trucking or was in trucking, but they transitioned to tech. And then a lot of Black people that are in trucking will be like, oh my God, I have to watch this interview because I'm in trucking and I need to see if I can truly get in tech from trucking. And it's like, yo, so you start to realize just how specific, and really is beautiful. It paints a picture of showing how all of our stories really matter, even when we think they don't. You know, we think, oh man, my story doesn't matter, you know, but it's like, yo, the fact that all of our stories are so unique, you know, it shows how, like, yo, there are a large group of people that have that same type of story, and they need to see you win. And I'm really speaking to y'all now. Like, they need to see you win. They need to hear, and, you know, even after you win, they need to hear your testimony, hear your story. And so I'm just listening to your story about you being a first in all these different arenas, and kind of transitioning into the next question that I have. So you being a first in these different arenas, you getting in the tech space 20 years ago, like, how has it been? Like, I mean, because it's really wild. Because, I mean, I've been in the space just for a few years. You've been in for 20-ish years. How has that been like for you in the space? What are some things you've seen? One, on a high level, like from a technology transition to the way organizations have changed, and even to maybe the growth of diversity in the tech industry, if there's been any. Like, what are some things that you've seen, and how have you been able to not just maintain but thrive in the tech space in the past 20 years?
Yeah, so from a technology perspective, you know, I laugh when I get to hear about cloud. And let me tell you why I laugh. Because in the 90s, I used to work for IBM Global Services. We call that outsourcing. So when we think about your apps being in the cloud, really what that was we outsourced. Instead of us hosting your servers in the data center and us carrying that cost, you would just outsource. Instead of a company carrying the cost of it, they would outsource it. But what we used to do is we used to call that services back in the day. Right?
Oh, so service,
it was called services, right? So a part of IBM Global Services is you would outsource your services to IBM, and they would host all your applications and your database work and all your server work. All of that stuff would be outsourced, and they would pay a fee, right? A contract for that. So I find that interesting, and AI is also very interesting.
How so?
So we act as though AI is new. AI ain't new, y'all.
Yeah.
AI ain't new, y'all. AI is not new. The difference between AI today and 20 years ago is today is more accessible. So we do have interfaces where we can leverage AI. My mother could log into ChatGPT and write a letter, right? But when I think about when I was in college, Microsoft Word could spell check.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was big.
Yeah.
Because, right, instead of us having to edit these documents that we would send out, we would just use Microsoft Word. Spell check. Think about it.
I guess I think about that. I'm like,
you don't think about it as being AI. You think it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when we think about technology, we need to understand that technology is always transforming to the culture, and it's also transforming for businesses. Because the question is, what are businesses and what are they in business for? They're in business to make money. Yeah. How do they make money? We drive cost out. How do we drive cost out? We figure out how to automate more things, right? And then we also figure out the things that are low, what I call lower value items, lower value things, and have people not focus on those anymore, but now have them focus on the things that drive more value to the organization or things that only people can do. I'll say it that way. And so technology has evolved from what I would say being services focused to now also product focused. Okay. We don't hear the word services anymore. Think about it.
You know, we don't.
You hear product ownership. You hear product management. You hear, we think about MVPs, minimum viable product.
Yeah, product expert.
Right?
Yeah.
And our language has changed from services to product, which is also tied to our apps. So the language has changed, but business is still business. Yeah. Right? The technology has changed. It's more accessible, but it's still the same technology. Yeah. It's just how we use it is different, and is it available to me? I don't need to be IBM in order to have Walton. Right? Remember Walton? I think it was Walton.
The store, right?
It was what they used to call back in the day the big AI like bubble, right?
Oh yeah,
so,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, but
yeah.
It was their kind of AI, right? So you don't have that. What you do now have is ChatGPT. Yeah. Which is accessible to everybody. Yeah. Right.
So what ChatGPT did, or OpenAI, essentially what they did is they took AI that was mainly only accessible to large tech companies and businesses. They took it and they broke it down to where now everyone can have their own AI.
Correct. Yeah. And they put a beautiful interface. Right? You don't need to be a programmer to use it. You can just type. Yeah. Right? Or you can click and point. So they made it easier for people to use it.
Yeah, you know what? This makes me think about kind of like the introduction of the PC. Because again, we all grew up, you know, I would even say even like yourself in large part grew up with personal computers. But I think about like when I read Steve Jobs' story and how when, you know, they were at, you know, huge war with IBM and Microsoft when it came to the computers, and that video that at the time it was viral, but it was way before social media, obviously. But that viral video that Apple dropped, I think it was in 1984, where it was a video where it was the same year that the movie 1984 came out, where everybody was thinking about dystopian things and the government, big government taking over. And y'all, let me know in the comments if y'all seen the video or not. And if y'all haven't seen it, you know, after you watch this episode, watch it and let us know if you think that video would have went viral today if it came out. I don't think it would have, but at the time it was this video where it was like this dystopian thing, and there was a TV, and a government was like shouting out rules, and somebody just ran and threw a brick or something, and it shattered the TV. And it was Apple's way of saying like, hey, we're creating a personal computer that is like, we're kind of anti-government, we're for the people. And to this day, Apple still kind of operates in that way, where they still operate where it's like, hey, we're not going to allow the government to have access to the data of our people and community. So it's cool to see that they've kind of maintained their brand for the most part. But it's interesting to think about how big a deal that was. People to be like, wow, we all have access to personal computers. And now that's the same thing with AI. It's where it's like, oh, wow, we now all have access to our personal AI assistants.
Correct. Man. Yeah. But the thing I love is it levels the playing field.
Yeah, how so?
So before, when computers came out, they were very expensive. And so again, remember I shared, my parents were blue collar. My parents could not afford initially when computers came out to buy me a computer. So we used to go to a little place called the library.
What's that?
You remember the library? We used to go to the library, and that's where I would use my computer, or I would use my computer in school. And so when you think about, Chat GPT being available now, or any of the AIs that you can download for free, most children, even in lower income families, at least have a cell phone, which is really nothing more than a computer in their pockets. They now have access. They can leverage it. They don't need to get in a car and drive to the library. They don't need to go out and seek access. They have it. So the question is, what will we do with the access? How will we leverage it to improve our lives and to improve our children's lives, while at the same time maintaining our integrity and our own beautiful minds and beautiful thoughts? Because what we also don't want to do is leverage it so much to where we're no longer thinking, that it is thinking for us.
That's really the challenge, because I see people oftentimes, it's usually on social media, but sometimes it'll be barbershop conversations. I'll get my hair cut and I hear people start talking about technology, and I'll hear people say things like, "Oh man, no, I'm not gonna fool with that. That's just gonna make us lazy." But when I hear that, my mind often shifts to, I'm like, well, wealthy people and the business owners use it. They use it more frequently than we do, and it doesn't make them lazy. Or they'll say, "Oh man, you don't need them bots cleaning up your home. It's gonna make you lazy." I'm like, the people that got it are the most fit people that I know. And so I wonder sometimes, I guess, really, what is it that allows some people to say, "Hey, I'm not gonna use this thing because it's gonna make me lazy," or they will use it and it makes them lazy, versus people that will use it and they will allow it to not make them lazy, or they'll allow it to use it for them to kind of get some of their time back and some of their life back. What do you think that is, and what would you say to people that are listening and watching that maybe they're like, "Hey, I'm not really sure about some of the technology because I'm fearful it's going to make me lazy." What would you kind of mentor them into shifting their mindset to view it differently as to how it could actually benefit them in their life?
So first of all, let's just go back to how most of us was raised. This is not everybody, because I know everybody wasn't raised the way I was raised, but most of I'll say the people that I know typically come from their first generation. So I'm going to speak specifically, to those individuals who maybe didn't have money, right? My mother, we were the house cleaners. We were the dishwashers. Right? Think about that. We were taught to do things ourselves because there was no one else. My mother could not outsource cleaning to a cleaning company. Right? She couldn't have. We didn't have Grubhub.
No TaskRabbit to come.
Right? Again, my mama was like, when we wanted to even go to McDonald's, "Do you have McDonald's money?" Right? So when you think in terms of our culture, we operated in a place of really just trying to get through day to day. There was no excess. Right? Which means, and so if there's no excess, there's no access. And so we were taught to do everything ourselves because there was no additional help, whether it be financial or time. And so when we look at our businesses and we look at technology, we still have that mindset. We've got to have a different mindset and say, what are the least valuable things that I can do that I can outsource? And what are the things that only I can focus on? So for instance, somebody can come clean my house, but only one person can raise our son.
That's real.
Right?
That's cold.
So I think we've got to take a step back and say, what are some of the things that we can outsource, that we can afford to outsource, because we need the financials, but what can we outsource and leverage technology or people or other processes to free up time so that we can do the things that really matter to us, or the things that only we can do. And I think you have to do your own audit of what that looks like. Right? I leverage ChatGPT to write something, but I'll go through and edit it and tweak it. But I don't allow it to do all of the work for me. Right? Or I might have it start an idea and craft it for me. That saves me anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. Well, where does that time go? Well, that made me and my husband sitting on the sofa watching TV. It just gave me time. We've got to change our perspective on how do we leverage technology to free us up so that we get more time to spend with family or doing other things that are more valuable to us.
That's so good. I was hosting at a tech event in Dallas yesterday, and this week I was really focusing on preparing for the event, and there were some things that I had to do. I had to come up with some games. And I was like, I don't like coming up with no games. I'm dealing with adults. Like, could we not just have an event, be educated and network? But I'm like, okay, come up with some games. You know, they people that asked me to host told me to come up with some games. So one of the games I came up with was just basically a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Tech Edition. And so I was like, okay, I have two main roles. I have to come up with games, but I also have to, the speakers at the event, I have to introduce the speakers, I have to intro them and outro them. I have to, you know, kind of, and then for the panel, I have to ask questions to the panelists, things like that. And to your point, what I found was that when it came to the games, I just ChatGPT'd the games. I was like, okay, well, I told ChatGPT, hey, give me 10 questions, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style, you know, for people that are in the tech industry. And then at first it started out with a bunch of Python, and I was like, okay, no, this ain't fun. This is like really technical. I said, hey, make it more like pop culture, tech friendly. You know, and then it came out with some stuff, but it was very dumbed down. It's like anybody knows the answer to all of these questions. So then I was like, so make the questions a little bit more complicated. And then it came out with some questions where I was like, okay, these are good. It's like some of these are pretty easy to answer, but some of these are like kind of tricky. And so like one that had a lot of people stumped was, which is so crazy. But I think it's sometimes people feel pressure whenever it's a quiz, they overthink. But one of the questions, and I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna list the answers. Or I'm gonna list the possible answers, and let me know if you get the answer right before I say what the answer was. So the question was, which one of these 4 tech companies was not founded in a garage? So one was Google, the second one was Amazon, the third was Apple, and the fourth was Facebook. So let me know if y'all know the answer to that. If you do, be honest. If you do, if you don't, let us know in the comments. Do you remember which one was not founded in a garage?
So I know Facebook. You said Google, Facebook,
Amazon, and Apple. And it's so funny because you know the answer, but
Apple. I know Apple was.
Because when I say it, you're gonna be like, oh.
Google?
No, it was Facebook. Because they're college campus.
That's correct.
And that's what it was. And it's kind of like, oh, you think about it, like, yeah. So, but it's really interesting. The last one, and I had to come up with this one because ChatGPT. I tried to say, hey, this Black History Month, give me one that's like for Black people. And ChatGPT was like, hey, I technically don't want to basically say I don't want to see color. Like that's basically what it says. So I was like, okay. So I had to come up with one, which was essentially, hey, what are the which one of these Black founded tech companies are $1 billion company? One was Squire. Option 2 is Calendly. And option 3 is a company, why can I not think of it right now? It's a fintech insurance company, but all 3 of them are founded by Black men. And then D was all of the above. And the answer was all of the above. All of them are $1 billion tech companies founded by Black men.
Which is amazing.
Which is so cool. It
is.
And so anyway, kind of a sidebar, but to your point, I let ChatGPT come up with questions that I felt like were, that's just for fun. But when it came to the guests, when it came to me introing them in a way that made sense, in a way that brought value to them before they spoke, the things that like really mattered, I was like, no, I'm not going to outsource this to AI. I'm going to make sure this is something that I'm on top of and that I'm focusing on, because this is the thing that I feel truly, truly matters for the speaker.
If you're looking to break into tech, scaling your tech career, or get networking, collaboration, resources, and more, I have something huge for you. Tech is the New Black is the largest tech career platform in the world. And we've helped over 1,000 people break into 6-figure tech careers and even more scale. But now we're taking it even further with our Techpreneur Discord community. This community offers high-level networking and collaboration with tech leaders, tech recruiters, and more through events, private streams, and daily group conversations. And if you're looking to break into tech, we don't just have all of the trainings and resources that you need, but we actually have partnerships with different companies that are hiring from within our community. So no matter your goal and your career, income, or business, the Techpreneur community was made for you. So text us at 404-519-2851 or just hit the link in the description to join.
So I love that so much. Now you've been in the industry for a while, and in today's era, most women don't want a man who makes less than them. Either it's because, and ladies, let us know in the comments, let us know which side y'all fall on, but either it's because they feel like that man can't help them maintain their lifestyle, or they think that the men might be jealous of them. And in some cases, that is true. But you have a beautiful, long-lasting marriage where you out-earn your husband, if I remember correctly when we spoke about it. But you still, we were speaking about it, you still choose to be traditionally submissive to your husband. Why would you choose to do this when you could really just take care of yourself? You could, live your rich auntie lifestyle and all that good stuff. So why would you choose to do that when everything we see in media and culture today is saying, hey, look, if you at a such and such level, you need a man that's at your level or that's above your level or something like that. What is your perspective on this conversation?
Yeah, so again, it goes back to my faith, right? So, and again, I know some people will say, oh, this is very old fashioned, but God is very clear. It is Him, my husband, and then me. But there's a scripture that says basically, if my husband is supposed to love me like God loves the church. Yeah. And in turn, I'm supposed to submit to Him. But God also says, submit ye to one another. Yeah. Right? Is that accurate? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay. And so in our home, I do make more money than my husband. My husband's military. I went to college, right? So our paths were very different. But he's still the head of our household. Yeah. But he also loves me like God loves the church. Yeah, I love that. So the money to me is our money. Yeah. It's not I have my money and he has his money. That's not how we. And again, that's our marriage. Yeah. Right? There's no judgment, but that is our marriage. And the reason I'm able to respect him and honor him regardless of his money is because he's more than money. Yeah. His value, his praying over me, his covering. I shared with you, I had brain surgery. It's been over actually 20 years ago. And during that time we were married. This man had to put my clothes on. He had to feed me. When people would come visit, he would iron my pajamas. Right? Yeah. I wasn't working. We didn't lose a beat. Yeah. Right. So I have that man that's gone through life, that part of life with me. I also have that man that when I'm getting ready to think about the next career move, if somebody taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, we had this promotion, we want you to go take this job, or there's this new job and we want you make this number of money, we sit down and we have a conversation about it. Because when I take a job, we take a job. Yeah. Because it's going to impact the household. And by doing that, there's a level of respect and honor that comes with that. And one thing men need is to feel respected. I don't care if they black, pink, yellow, green, whatever, it doesn't matter. A man needs to feel respected and a woman needs to feel covered. Yeah. And we need to feel safe. And so what really works with us is he gets a level of respect and I get covering and we both love each other. Yeah. Right? And so it works. Now, let me say this. I still go back to that's conditional. I understand why women in general are like, well, I'm not submitting to a man. Well, yeah, because he ain't loving you like God loved the church. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. I'm not going to submit to you. Why would I do that? Because you haven't loved me. God gave his life for us. Yeah. My husband will give his life for me. Dang, that's powerful. I know that. So I don't mind submitting to his authority. Now, again, submission does not mean I do every single thing he says. Submission means when we are in situations where I have a view, he has a view, if he's passionate, he wants to go with, let's say, choice B, and I want to go with choice A. I voiced A. I'm still going to voice A. Yeah. But he says, we're going to go with B, we're going to go with B. Yeah. And whatever the fallout is, God will deal with him on that. Yeah. I don't have to say a word. But now let me say, that's coming through 25 years of marriage. Yeah. to get to that place to understand, I don't need to tell you I told you so, because God will deal with you. Because remember, what's the order? God, him, me.
Yeah.
God will deal with him. All I'm supposed to do is pray for him.
Yeah.
And stand in the gap.
That's fire. That's fire. That's so powerful. You know, there's a quote, there's something that you said recently where you said, my money is our money. There's actually a really popular quote that's going around, and the quote actually goes the opposite, where there are a lot of people saying, oh, well, her money is her money, my money is our money, you know, and I see that, and I get the notion, because I get the notion, but it's so interesting how the quote that you said, and of course the content that comes out is either from people that either are not married, or they're just like making some viral type of social media content. But it's very interesting that, like, in your years of marriage and what it is that you have, that it sounds completely counterculture to what's popular today and what's being said today. And what people hear that and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, as a man, your money is y'all's money. Her money is just for her on the side for whatever she wants to do. And it's so interesting, even for myself, because I've seen that quote multiple times, and I saw it enough to where I was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's like, all right, straight. But now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, it's so interesting how over time we can start to become brainwashed to whatever is fitting the narrative of culture in that day. And sometimes even as believers, we can start to almost twist scripture in our mind, or in some kind of way be like, okay, well, maybe this is how God wants things to be. But it's like, no, that's really kind of culture, you know, this kind of twisting, kind of like what, you know, when the enemy was talking to Jesus and was like, you know, did God really say? Or he was using scripture and was using scripture out of context to try to get his own agenda out of Jesus. And it shows how that happens to a lot of us today. And I see a lot of people in the church in that same way that are kind of having Christian versions of the modern culture today, where they're trying to justify things in a spiritual way to line up with what's happening in the world. And it's just really interesting to see. But it's beautiful to hear wisdom from someone where it's like, oh, no, that actually is how it's supposed to be. We have just been getting so inundated by society today to where we're starting to justify, approve, and sometimes celebrate and fight for what actually is something that we should not stand for. And so that's really beautiful to hear, especially you sharing that story. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing that story about him being there for you, you know, just during that season of your life. Shouts out to your husband.
I love him.
Shouts out to your husband.
That's my, well, you know, I think what we, it's almost like, I feel like we've gotten to a place where it's him versus her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We don't need to compete, right? So my assignment, what God's called me to do in the marketplace, is different than his assignment. It doesn't mean that the assignments are, one is better than the other. It means it's different. Yeah. And so if I honor him and he honors me, it makes it work. Because again, money is money. I'm like, you know, I'm sure you've been in situations or seen relationships where everybody's is looking for the bag, but nobody is worried about the relationship and the love and walking in integrity with one another, loving one another and having grace and mercy, which we're supposed to do with one another, right? I think we got to reshift and say, what is marriage? What did God intend marriage to be? And what are we expecting from that partnership? Because that's what it is. He's my partner in life. He's the person that's walking through me, whether it's illnesses, whether it's issues with money, whether it's a job, whether it's somebody being disrespectful, because my husband has walked through with me, with men being disrespectful to me and being in the tech space as a black woman, and how I'm having to navigate that as a woman, but getting his perspective as a man, because I might be looking at the situation one way, but he can give me that male perspective. You got to walk with your partner together. It's not I'm competing against you. If we gonna go get the bag, we get in the bag. Now my assignment in getting the bag may look different than yours, but it's our bag. It's not my bag, and then you have your bag. One other point I just want to make, I think this notion is the man is supposed to be the provider, and he's supposed to cover all of the bills, and that's why I think people say, well, his money is y'all's money, everybody's money, and her money is her money. I get that, but live some life, because he could get sick, right? He could get laid off from his job. Mentally, he could have some issues mentally where you don't want to see your husband broken, so you're willing to take up the slack.
Yeah.
Life is happening to all of us. And so we've got to make sure that we're clear again. Does the man have integrity? Does he love the Lord? Does he know the Lord? Does he love the Lord? Does he know himself? And is it in alignment? Did God tell you to marry that man? Did God tell you to marry that woman? Because she fine and he fine, but fine is not going to help you when you got brain surgery.
For real.
$1 million not going to help you when you got brain surgery.
Yeah.
$1 million is not going to feed me and clothe me, right? $1 million might walk out the door and say, I don't want to be bothered with this.
Man.
And so I think we as a people, we got to get back to what is marriage? Not what the world said, but what did God say?
Yeah.
Who are we? What do we want? What is our relationship with God? And making sure that we are doing the work for ourselves so that when the person is ready, that he's ordained for us, that it just works.
Yeah. That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Look, y'all let us know, like, what y'all think about everything that she just shared. Let us know, like, just like I said, like, I'm sure all of you, everybody has access to social media. You've seen the gender war, like she mentioned, that's going on, and the different quotes, like things that I've mentioned. Where is your heart at when it comes to this? Are you on the side of, hey, look, I love everything that Ms. Trina just shared, I agree with it 100%? Or are you on the side of, hey, things have changed, things are different? Or are you like, hey, look, I'm kind of on the fence. I see what she's saying. I want to go that route, but maybe through some bad experiences, and through the culture and things, I'm getting shifted another direction. Definitely let us know. We definitely want to talk to y'all in the comments and just see kind of like how we can talk through this and just really encourage each other towards like a healthy direction. Now, one of the things that I appreciate a lot about you, and I'm sure people could tell this already, is that you have really been instrumental in helping people go beyond just, okay, getting a bag or being successful in tech, but actually truly caring for people in a bit of a motherly or auntie type of way. And you took it a step further with that by creating something called Tech Care. Can you please explain to everyone what Tech Care is and how you've been just really helping a lot of people, helping a lot of women in this space?
Yeah, so Tech Care is an organization that I created specifically for women of color, where we provide coaching, community, and compassion. As I stated to you before, women of color, we're in tech, but it is hard. I'm not going to sit on here and say that it is not hard being a woman of color, especially a Black woman of tech in technology. Yeah. We're dealing with white men, white women, also our Indian sisters and brothers that add a different level of behavior, right? Cultural differences, because really that's what it is. And so what I wanted to do was create this space for women of color where we could come together and grow together and figure out how to navigate. If you're new, how to navigate the space before you get in. Because again, you happy, you know how to code, you know how to do, you're a scrum master, you're a product owner, you're all these different things, but then you walk in and there will be rejection. People may not want you there. Okay, well, how do we help you navigate the feelings and the emotions of that? Yeah. How do we give you the skills and the tools to navigate corporate America, because maybe you are first generation? And then when we think about our mid-career, helping you tap into your power. Because a lot of times we don't know what to ask for because nobody told us. Yeah. Right? So I'm going to tell you, every single year, your organization, if you work in an organization, typically they have training dollars. Has your manager ever told you that you have training dollars? Probably not. We're going to tell you, here are the things you should be asking for and advocating for yourself. And then we're going to have those real conversations around what it is like. So Jimmy keeps talking over you in the meeting. How do you handle Jimmy? Or Brandon, who is Black male. Both of y'all in a room together. How do you figure out how to team up with Brandon to make sure you have covering, he has covering? Yeah. How do we do that? How do you navigate that? And then more importantly, how do we make sure you take care of yourself? Yeah. So when you are in technology, we're women, we typically are pouring out to people. We're not just doing our job. We're mentoring, we're coaching, we're a part of the ERGs, right? So, your Black networks, your women networks, Asian networks. So we're doing this extra work, but we're not taking care of ourselves. We show up beautiful on screen, but we're broken. Yeah. And that's not what God desires. He doesn't want us committing suicide. He doesn't want us having nervous breakdown over a job. He don't even want us where it goes a year or two where we haven't even had a checkup. I talk to women every single day. They haven't had their teeth cleaned. They haven't had their annual checkups. You would be amazed because what has happened is they're so caught up into pouring out into this job that they forgot to make sure that their cup stayed full and that the job gets overflow, not what's in the cup.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? On top of all the other things, because most of us, if we're in tech, right, we have mama in them. If we're first generation financially, right, we probably are supporting multiple households.
Yes.
We are the one that everybody goes to, from if their computer is broken to somebody needs to go to the doctor and they don't understand what the doctor is saying. It's a heavy load for us to carry.
Yeah.
And so this organization is really focused to look at the entire woman and for us to have conversations around navigating your corporate life, but also your personal life. Because I believe that God doesn't want us to just survive or thrive. He wants us to live well.
Yeah.
That's what he desires for us.
That's so beautiful, because for a few reasons, but one of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking, one of the things I've seen more and more, and let me know if y'all have seen the same thing, but one of the things that I've seen more and more online have been, really in the last couple of years, a lot of women forsaking the boss chick thing, where, and they're forsaking it because they're saying like, yo, like I'm kind of breaking down, and they're saying, hey, look, I just want to, like, different phrases that they use are things like, yo, I just want to rest in my femininity, or I just want to be in my soft life, my soft era. And I've been seeing these things as a man, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, one, there's the natural pressure of being in, because corporate in and of itself is a masculine like environment, and a lot of the metrics that are, it's kind of like school in a way where, like grade school is based on a very outdated system, and the metrics to prove that you're successful in the grading system is not proper, and it does not reflect every person individually. Likewise is most work in corporate, where it's based on a system of masculinity and a system of men. And it forces women that come into the space to say, hey, you now have to perform at this level in a way that's really a grading metric that more so is built for men. But you have to do this as a woman, where you are uniquely different. And of course, many women are outperforming guys, and whether outperforming or underperforming, either way, we're seeing that many of the women are breaking down and are like, man, I just mentally or emotionally am just breaking down from all of this. And so what I love about what you're doing with Tech Care is just how it really allows women to have a space and have resources that's really able to help them recover, help them just receive the care that they need to be able to thrive and flourish, and really kind of be able to like just really do everything that they feel passionate about, what they feel that God has placed on their heart to do, whether it's in tech or whatever corporate field that they're in. And then also, more importantly, just in their life overall in general. So I love that so much. I definitely want to encourage y'all to check out Tech Care and everything that she's doing, because I mean, these things are so incredibly important. It's really important for us to have platforms like this, spaces like what she's provided with Tech Care. And so I just want to say thank you so much just for what it is you're doing. I know you're doing it because, God has called you to do it, and because you're passionate about it. But yeah, just truly thank you. Because I've been seeing these things online, and I've been like, man, it's seeing it so frequently. I'm like, this is really a thing, and I feel like no one's addressing it. It's like we hear about therapy and things, but it's like, but therapy in and of itself, I don't feel like addresses these things in a very specific way and manner. Again, it's almost like a one size fits all in a way, where it's like, hey, these are the things that therapists are taught, versus what you produce with Tech Care, it being something that is more specific to this realm. Right. And so I love that so much. Like, yo, I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
For everyone interested in taking advantage of what's being discussed, you already know that we have the resources to help you. All you need to do is text us at 404-519-2851, or just click the link in the description or on the video, and the Tech is the New Black team will assist you with this or anything else.
Now, every week, and kind of going within the vein, it's actually crazy. I actually didn't even mean for this to line up in this way, because that last comment was kind of spontaneous. But every week there is another article of Black women leaving corporate or technology. What are your thoughts on this trend? Like, because we've seen it, but why do you believe this is happening, and what do you believe this reflects?
So first of all, what I'll say is Black, and I'll speak specifically from what I'm hearing from some of my coaching clients as well as my Black women executives. Mm-hmm. We're leaving tech because we were invited but not welcome. Mm. So you spend the time and you market, you say you want to bring us into the organization, you bring us into the organization, and then to your point, the way the system is set up, you do not welcome us. Mm. So you speak over me in meetings, I work hard as Tommy, I don't get promoted, you're expecting for me to give you 300%, and I still don't get, as you say, the bag. Yeah. Right? And so I think what's happening with women, I'll speak specifically for Black women, is there's a time where we're reassessing what does success really look like for us, and what are we willing to pay? Because again, we don't have the real conversation. People say, go into tech, go catch the bag. But what they forget is there's a cost. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we don't count the cost because nobody tells us how much it's gonna cost us. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't tell you because they don't know. You the first one, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of women are saying, you know what, this is requiring too much of me. It is impacting my mental health, it's impacting my physical health. I'm not passionate about it anymore. I used to love it, I'm not passionate about it anymore. Mm-hmm. Or I have other things that drive value for me, and financially I don't have to do this anymore. Yeah. Right? Now, what I will also say is we do have some women who are physically there that have left, because I believe that a woman leaves before she leaves. Yeah. Right? Or a man leaves before he leaves. So we do have people that are in corporate America that are in seats that they've left. They're maintaining because they still have people they need to feed. And that's what we do, right? So you have to navigate that. I think that there is a great opportunity for corporations to get back to serving and loving people as they are. Yeah. A white woman in her experience in corporate America is very different than mine in corporate America. Mm-hmm. You have to meet me where I am just like you meet her where she is. Mm-hmm. And it's okay if you don't agree with it, but you have to embrace that my experience is gonna be different. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important for us to get back to what I call true leadership. And leadership is, I meet you where you are, and I care about you as a person. Mm-hmm. You're not replaceable. Even if I put someone else in this seat, they will never do it the way you do it. Yeah. They'll never have the swagger the way you have it. So we've got to start looking at people and embracing the uniqueness of each individual, and not just diversity of thought or diversity of complexion or religion, but truly looking at these souls that come into the marketplace and being grateful that we have them in the marketplace to serve us, and we need to support them when things don't go right. Mm-hmm. Because we know we're dealing with people. Yeah. Everybody don't like Black people. Everybody don't like Indian people. Everybody don't like women. You know you're dealing with people. So when those things happen, you got to protect her. You got to protect her. And if you don't protect her, then she's going to leave you. Mm-hmm. So that's one piece. And one last point that I also want to make. When I say this, it's going to sound weird, but I just want you to process it. We were taught to give 150%. My mother was a perfectionist. Things had to be done a certain way, right? So 150%. She's like, give your best, give your best. We, Black women specifically, we get stressed out because we're giving them our 100% instead of their 100%. So let me break it down. Okay. If you go to the vending machine and you buy a Coca-Cola out of the vending machine for $1, they give you 12 ounces. And then I turn around and give you a 2-liter for the same price, right? Mm-hmm. We do that in corporate America. Yeah. They pay us for the 12 ounces. We give them 2 liters, but then we get mad at them because they don't want to pay for the 2 liters that we gave them because they only paid for the can. Yeah. And then we want to know why we stress out and we frustrated. And the reason being is because we're trying to give this vessel something that they didn't ask for. Mm-hmm. Right? Man. They asked for a can. Yeah. They're paying you for a can. That's what they asked for. Now, if you want to give them a little more, if they want to receive it, that's great. That's perfect. But if they don't take it as rejection. Because God even says, do not cast your pearls before swine. Mm-hmm. When you've offered them the 2 liters and they say this is not what they want, then give them the 12-ounce can.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, if you're giving them your 100%, you don't have time for your wife, your girlfriend, your mama and them. Your mental health is going to get impacted. You're not going to the doctor because they have become your God. You giving them more than what they paid for. God's word says, give an honest day's work for honest day's pay.
Yeah, that's facts.
He said, so the way I interpret that based off of my analogy I gave you, he said, if they pay for 8 ounces, if they pay for 12 ounces, you give them the best 12 ounces that they'll ever have. That'll be the best Coca-Cola they ever had.
Yeah.
But if they only pay for 12 ounces, you give them the 12 ounces because that's their 100%, which means if that's your 60%, you got 40% to start a business, do community service, spend more time with you, try to find you a bae. You have, and you can make sure you're taking care of yourself. But if you giving them your 100%, you giving them a 2 liter that they didn't pay for, and then you mad because they don't want to pay you for it.
Yeah.
And you mad because they rejecting the overflow, and you internalize it and make it seem like there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
Give them what they pay for. Do exceptionally well with what they've asked you to do, but you keep what they don't pay you for yourself. Unless you want to continue to pursue your career in the organization. So, because that's a different type of game. If you know you want to be an executive, you might have to give up some more, but you also understand that there's negotiating that happens when you're giving them more. So I'm not going to bring out my 2 liter and give it to you unless we have a conversation about the financials.
Yeah, that's so good.
Does that make sense?
That makes so much. You know, the timing of this is interesting because, so we were talking offline about how I just came back from Dubai. And whenever I was in an Uber or just paying for some service, I made a mistake a few times where their technology is pretty interesting. When you go to make a purchase with something, it actually comes up on a screen whether you are paying them, because it comes up with the amount and it says, hey, do you want to pay this amount with the US dollar or do you want to pay it with the dirham, which is the UAE or United Emirates. I'm jacking up the UAE basically, which is their version of the dollar. There were a couple times I clicked US. So let's say something costs $212. It would say, do you want to pay this in the US dollar? Or do you want to pay this in the dirham? The dirham is worth, the US dollar is 3.6 times more than the dirham. So $360 US is equivalent to $100. No, excuse me, other way around. Yeah, $360 dirham is worth a $100 bill. So there were a couple times I paid because I saw the amount and I saw it US and I was like, oh yeah, $212 US. But in reality, they only asked me for $212 dirham. So what I ended up doing was essentially I paid them almost $1,000 when they only asked me for $212. So essentially I gave up way more of my own money than I needed to give up. So that's why I'm listening to this and I'm like, man, this is actually, because I remember that pain that I felt when I realized, wait, so you have way more of my money, but now I can't even get it back.
Exactly.
Because I clicked and instead of me stopping and looking and be like, okay, do you want $212 in your money or $212 in my money?
Right.
And I just automatically, let me give it to you US. When in reality, I shouldn't have done that. So hearing you talk about this, I'm like, yo, that pain sits so real with me. And it makes so much sense. And I eventually started paying closer attention because of that, making sure I wasn't doing that. So I love that so much. So you have really, 20 years in the industry, you have really trailblazed and grown and excelled and really just moved up the ranks in the space. What is some advice? A lot of people that are listening are wanting to know, hey, look, they've already looked at your LinkedIn at this point. They checked you out. They like, oh man, she's done some amazing things. And they're like, man, like, what would be some advice that you would give people that could help them on their journey where they feel called to pursue a career similar to yours? And if you could look back and speak to yourself 20 years ago, or really in today speak to them, what is advice that you would give them that would help guide them along their journey? Yeah,
so I'm gonna hit the last one first because I got that fresh on my mind. What I would say is, and it may be both, make sure you know who you are. Get to know yourself so that you're clear on the things that you will do and that you won't do. the further up the chains you go, there will be compromise, and you're going to deal with different types of people that are motivated by different things, which means sometimes they will ask you, and this is, let me be clear, it's not my current role or anything, but just in the, in the past, I've seen where being in positions where people will put you in a situation where it'll cost you your integrity, right? So if you know who you are, you're going to stand firm in your yeses and your nos. Yeah. So I think that's important. And then I would say the one thing that we need to do is count the cost. Before you take a job or before somebody taps you on the shoulder and say, hey, I think I want you to go do this, make sure you understand what is it going to take? What is it going to cost you to do that? Yeah. Right? So is it going to be time? Is it you're going to be traveling all the time, right? Are you going to be working 12, 14-hour days? Like, count the cost and understand what it's going to cost you. Because a lot of times we just so happy that we were picked. We tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, we want you to go do this. And it might be something you don't even want to do, but because they picked you, because you don't know who you are, you're going to just go do it. And you don't understand the cost. So I think it's important for us to understand who we are, understand the cost of the things that we want. And then I'm going to say this other thing, make sure you know the business. So we think technology, when people hear technology, they hear you go in the Apple store and you have an appointment for them to fix your. Technology is business. Okay. You can't get on an airplane without technology. Yeah, no. Right? You can't get your products. Grubhub can't run without tech. Every business that we're in business in, it's a technology business. We're sitting here doing a podcast, it's technology. If the technology wasn't working, it would not happen. Yeah. And so you need to understand that technology really allows you to do business, but you need to understand what is the business that your company is doing. Okay. And when you understand that, when you are having those technical discussions, translate business to technology. Okay. And you'll become more valuable because they view technology people as being just nerds sitting in the back room, and that's not true.
They don't understand the business.
I don't know. And my sweet spot is I understand the business. I can translate business speak to technology speak, and I can translate technology speak to business speak. Yeah. We need to understand the business. And when you do that, it sets you up to not only continue to stay in technology, you might want to go do something else. You might want to go work in the VC part of the business, or you might want to go work in marketing, or you might want to go work in operations. It puts you in a position where you become a more valuable resource for the organization versus them just sticking you technology and saying that's all you can do.
Yeah.